Hey guys, this video is sponsored by realeestatemediacourses.com, which is my platform for my real estate media courses that I put out. So if you're interested in learning even more about the real estate media business in general, check them out at realeestatemediacourses.com. Now in this video, I'm going to be answering 5 questions or actual comments that I've gotten in some of the recent videos that I've posted. This is going to be something that I'm going to be doing on a ongoing basis. So I'm just going to randomly pick out questions and answer them, especially the ones that come up over and over again. So let's get into it. So let's go to question number 1. Question number 1, what is the little flash thingy you're using before the camera goes off? So if in that particular job shadow, I believe you're referring to the remote that I'm using. So this is the remote that I was using in the job shadow that I posted on YouTube, which is the Sony RMT DSLR2 remote, which is a good IR remote. So you do have to it uses infrared. But I recently changed, or actually I changed a few job shadows after that one to the Bluetooth version of the Sony remote, which is more expensive. This one costs like 20 or 30 bucks. This one costs, I believe, 80 bucks. This is the Sony, let me give you the model number, RMT P1BT. And I really like this remote, and I have several of these. I use them in my studios. I use them out shooting now because it's so much nicer not having to point it at the IR receiver on the physical camera itself in order to shutter, so you can move rooms and actually still shutter the camera. So hope that answered your question. Let's move on to the next question. Really helpful to see someone else's workflow. I've been trying to shoot flash ambient, but I realize I am moving at turtle speed, trying to find a happy medium as I get my footing in this niche of photography universe. Apologize, my reading is not very good. But yeah, there's a lot of different methods you can use to shoot real estate. To shoot real estate in general, you can use HDR, you can use flash HDR, you can use flash ambient, you can use single exposure flash. There's a lot of different, or even single exposure ambient. You know, there's a lot of different methods. It really just depends on your goals as a photographer, what type of product you want to produce and actually offer to your customers. We actually shoot a lot of different styles here at Lister Pros. We have our main style, which is for our main photos that people order, and then we have different styles depending on listing, right? So if you're shooting at that flash ambient, I know the work that goes into layering the different exposures and bringing in the windows. That might not be the best way to edit a $200,000 home, right? You got to look at the goals of your customers and your specific goals, right? So depending on the on what your customers are willing to pay and how much time you want to spend editing, you kind of got to weigh your options. And I go over several of those in the course itself, different methods about doing it. And on the YouTube, I shared our most common way that we shoot, which is HDR. So anyways, actually, you had another question, follow-up question. Also, how are you mounting your external monitor? And I'll show you right now. So I only use the external monitor because I wanted to record my settings so that you guys can see what I'm actually shooting. But this is the Atomos Ninja V. And then if you're using a Manfrotto 190X tripod like I am, there's this little quick connect that's built into the tripod itself, and you can just, here, I'll take it off real quick and show you what they're called, like magic friction arms. So this is a Manfrotto product itself, and it just kind of screws right into the side. So if you are that photographer that likes to use an external monitor, this is a great solution for you. I was using it because I was creating the course, but yeah, it's a great way if you want to have a bigger view on your tripod. But you have to have the right friction arm and then also a tripod with that quick connect. So, all right, let's move on to the next question. Next question, would you please share the user profile settings of the DJI gimbal? Thanks. So what I did is just screenshot my settings in the Ronin, I think I just fine-tune a little bit. I did share my user profiles, like memory 1, 2, and 3. I believe I left those the default from DJI. I do like to adjust my strength on my tilt, pan and roll axes, and also the stiffness, right? I like to fine tune. So it really just depends what camera you're using, how heavy is your rig, right? You might need to strengthen up a certain motor for it to do what you want. I've noticed that sometimes if it's not stiff enough, if I have a heavy camera on my gimbal and I go to move, it kind of just floats in the air and my footage gets kind of shaky like that. So it's important to fine tune your gimbal settings based on what camera you're actually using on your gimbal. All right, let's move on. I'll also link those settings. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see those individual images by themselves. So you can check those out in the description below. Next question. Hey, I have a question. Why do you turn off the fans in the house? I know someone who has been doing real estate photography for 10 plus years and tells me to leave them on while shooting. Why is that, and why do you turn them off? I hope you see this. All right. So when it comes to fans, this is mostly from customer feedback, and if the majority of customer preferences were to see a bunch of fan blur in their photos, we would shoot that way. But the majority of real estate agents that we shoot for prefer their images to not have that camera blur in it. We've gotten a lot of feedback. We've had a reshoot. Actually, if we do leave cameras on or fans on, we'll get a reshoot request quite frequently, if we accidentally forget to leave them on. So leave them off by default. We like to have our cameras set to low if we're doing video, just to add a little bit of motion and a little bit more personality to real estate videos. But for photos, unless an agent specifically requests, which I cannot remember the last time somebody requested to leave the fans on for the photography, then we turn them off. Good question, though. All right. Is this the last question? This might be the last question. It says, very well done. Thank you so much. This is a must-watch video for even experienced real estate photographers. Appreciate that, Jim. One question, I understand why you shoot at f4.0 from your comment above, because I got this question several times. But I don't see how f4 can give you continuous sharp from close to far, especially when using autofocus. It seems like manual focus at f8 would always provide perfect focus from close to far. All right. So I'll talk about this. So f4 is kind of the way that I like to balance it, right? I like to have a faster speed. So depending on if I'm using flash or not, I'll adjust my aperture setting. But I didn't learn photography in a classroom. How I learn photography is by shooting and looking at the result, right? So when I started, and our company default is f8, right, by the way. But I shoot with G Master lenses, and I like to test all my equipment. I just don't go by, all right, you should shoot this specific way because that's how the textbook says it. No, I'll shoot at f8. I'll shoot at f7.1, 6.3, 5.6, 4.0, and just look at the differences. What is there a negative impact on it, right? Are my customers complaining? Can you visually see a difference in the photos between f4 and f8? And when I'm shooting HDR images with the lenses that I personally use, I personally can't tell a difference, especially when I'm in the house. Now, if you're outside and you're shooting, say, the backyard, and you also want to get the mountain view in the background in focus, then you'll want to bump up. I will bump up my aperture to probably usually somewhere around f13, depending. Also, if I need a little bit of a slower shutter speed and I'm using flash, I'll bump my aperture up to f8. I just personally prefer a faster shutter speed. I like to move quickly through properties, And it's just a personal preference. I personally can't visually see a difference in properties. Now, if you will see it if you're shooting a subject, right? But if you're shooting real estate, it is a wide shot, and you're not focused on an object that's 2 feet away from your lens, right? And then in that case, you would see your aperture setting would really make a difference. You would see in the background that it's more blurred at a lower aperture setting. So anyways, it's just a personal preference. I've done a lot of split testing, a lot of different testing. If I could visually see a difference, I would. But there's a lot of things that I do that aren't necessarily conventional wisdom. I just like to move through homes quickly, and I like to be efficient as I'm shooting, as I'm editing. So everything that I do and how I like to operate is efficiency minded, also taking in consideration quality. But I would not recommend shooting at f4 if you're not certain of how your lenses perform. I've shot with a lower quality glass, and if I go from, most of them won't even, some of them won't even go down to f4 or open up all the way to f4. But it's important to test your lens. You need to know the limitations of your specific lens that you're using. So if I would say f8 is that safe bet for almost all lenses. f8 will give you a great image quality throughout. Now, if you want to start pushing, like I like to push a little bit and see, where my lenses perform, then you can see what you can get out of your lens. So anyways, hopefully that's helpful. Just a quick explanation as to why I shoot, how I do it, what variables I like to manage. I personally like moving through homes. You've seen in my job shadow, I'm not waiting for my camera to shutter very much, only in really, really dark rooms. It also makes it easier to stack images in the editing process, shooting all 3 exposures within a 3-second time period. So anyways, just personal preference. But for our photographers, we do have that default of f8. f4, just my personal preference. So that was kind of a long-winded answer. But I think that's going to do it for this video. So those were 5 questions. So if you guys have any additional questions as you watch the videos that I post onto YouTube, leave comments below. They'll likely show up in one of these videos. But anyways, appreciate your guys' questions, and we'll see you guys on the next one.